Welcome to Cricket Bites. I recently saw an interview of MS Dhoni when the reporter asks him this question. He asks, why don't you scream or shout at a person when they drop a catch? And this is what MS Dhoni replied, and that really made me think. MS Dhoni said, I don't scream at someone unless they do a mistake intentionally. Nobody drops a catch intentionally, and if I scream at them, I'm adding more pressure and they are more likely to drop the next catch as well. And what he said further was gold. He said, this time he dropped the catch, next time probably I would drop the catch too. That brings me to a very important topic. Forgive because we are forgiven. All of us have sinned and come short of the glory of God. None of us are perfect. We always need to understand that we ourselves are products of forgiveness. We are in the presence of God because we have been once forgiven. Jesus speaks about two stories. The first story that I want to highlight today is the story that happened in the house of Simon. Simon was healed by Jesus, and now he invites Jesus home along with his disciples. And there is an uninvited guest, a woman who is a sinful woman, as the Bible says. She comes home and breaks open the alabaster jar and pours that perfume on the feet of Jesus. And she wipes Jesus' feet with her tears. And then she continuously keeps kissing the feet of Jesus. And now this Simon, who was once saved, who was once forgiven, who was once healed, looks at this woman touching the feet of Jesus, and he thinks to himself, didn't Jesus know that she was a sinful woman? And Jesus, knowing his thoughts, immediately says, Simon, I want to tell you a story. And Jesus speaks about this wonderful story. He says there were two people. One who got 500 pieces of silver as a loan, and the other got 50 pieces of silver as a loan. And both of them couldn't pay back. And now the king calls both of them and forgives both of them. And then Jesus asks this question to Simon, Simon, who do you think will love more? And Simon says this perfect answer. He says, whoever was forgiven more will love him more. And Jesus said, this woman I compare to the one who got 500 pieces of silver. She loves me more because she was forgiven more. And now Jesus stops there, and this silence means something for Simon to understand. And that was, just because she was forgiven more, don't ever think that you are not a debtor. You are the one who got that 50 pieces of silver. Sometimes we look at big offenders and we think we are righteous. Just because they did a bigger mistake doesn't make us righteous. We are also sinners and we need to forgive one another. There's another story that Jesus talks about as well. And that's a very powerful story. Jesus talks about a man who got 10,000 talents of loan from the king. And comparing 10,000 talents of silver is equivalent to 300 years of labor. And this man gets this loan and he was not able to repay it back. Now he comes to the king and the king says, I need that money back. But this man begs and he says, King, give me some time and I will repay it back. But the king knew he cannot. And so the king mercifully forgives the entire debt. And this man who was forgiven walks out and he finds another debtor who got debt from him. And that was just 100 pieces of silver, which was about 10 days of wages. And this man asks him, when are you going to give me the money? And this man says, sir, give me some time and I will give you back. But he wouldn't listen. He chokes him and he puts him into the jail until he repays it back. Now the king hears about this story and is totally upset. He calls him back again. He said, I forgave you 10,000 talents. Can't you forgive 100 pieces of silver? And the king was so furious and he said, I'm going to take back the forgiveness I gave you. And until you pay it, I'm going to give you to torturers. Now this story tells us a big lesson. Forgiveness is complete, not when we receive it. Forgiveness is complete only when we give it. Sometimes we think, I've been forgiven by Jesus. I've been forgiven by the blood of the Lamb. The cross has paid the price. Yes, it's true. But that forgiveness is complete only when we are willing to forgive people who do mistakes against us. And that's why the Bible beautifully says, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. We obtain mercy from God only when we are merciful to one another. May God speak to us through this. God bless.